Okay, so let's take a look at some of these numbers. We're going to practice going from standard form to scientific notation. Okay, so let's take a look at the very first number, 2,705. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is to draw a line where the decimal point is. Okay, so the decimal point in this case would be after the 5. We're going to draw a line after the 5. Okay, since this is a whole number, you always draw your line at the end of the number. Next, you're going to draw a line after the first non-zero digit. Okay, so the first non-zero digit is 2. We're going to draw a line after the 2. Okay, and now we're going to count the number of digits between the lines. Okay, so there are 1, 2, 3 digits between the lines, so that's going to be our exponent. Okay, so the way that we're going to write our number is 2.705, and then we have to remember our times 10, and our exponent, since this was a number larger than 1, is going to be 3. Okay, let's take a look at the next problem. First step is to draw a line after at the decimal point, and so in this case it's after that last 0. We draw a line after the first digit, the first non-zero digit, and then we're going to count the digits in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so when we write our new number, we're going to say 1 and then put our decimal point, and then 7, 8. Since all those zeros are at the end, you really don't have to write them. And then we're going to write times 10, and then our exponent is going to be the number of digits between those lines. So there are 6 digits, so it's to the 6th power. Okay, next, let's look at the next number. We have 365,100,000. Okay, so just like what we did in the first 2 examples, you're going to draw a line after the decimal point, and then you're going to draw a line after the first non-zero digit, and we're going to count the spaces in between, count the digits in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so we're going to rewrite our number, 3.651. We don't have to write all those zeros because they're just zeros at the end. Okay, then we have to put our times 10, and then we have to put our exponent. So this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 digits. So it's going to be to the 8th power. Okay, let's try the next one. We have 184.05. Okay, so step 1, we draw a line at the decimal point. The decimal point was right there between 4 and 0. And then we draw a line right after the first non-zero digit, so behind the 1, and we're going to count the digits in between. Okay, so there are 2 digits in between. So now we have 1.8405, and then we have to say times 10, and then we had 2 digits in between, so our exponent is 2. Okay, so if you take a look at all of these, they all had positive exponents. Okay, so this was greater than 1. It has a positive exponent. So does this one. And these 2 as well. Okay, so let's take a look at the other side. Okay, on this side, we have numbers that are between 0 and 1. These are decimal numbers that are fairly small. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the very first one. We have 0.00065. The first thing we're going to do is to draw a line at the decimal point. And then we're going to draw a line after the first non-zero digit. Okay, so the first non-zero digit is 6. And then we're going to count how many spaces in between. Okay, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces in between. And since this was a number between 0 and 1, that means our exponent is going to be negative. Okay, so now we're going to write it as 6.5 times 10. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 digits in between, so to the negative 4th power. Okay, so this one, it had a negative exponent. Okay, let's take a look at the one right below that. Step 1, we are going to put a line at the decimal point, and then we put a line after the first non-zero digit. Okay, and we're going to count how many spaces in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, since this was a small number, it's going to be a negative exponent. And the way that we're going to write it is 8, and we put the decimal point after the 8, times 10 to the negative 8th power. Okay, next one. We have 0.0002. We draw a line at the decimal point. We draw a line after the first non-zero digit, and then we count the digits in between the lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Since this is a small number, that means we're going to have a negative exponent. Okay, so we're going to have 2 out front. The decimal goes after the 2 now. And then we are going to multiply times 10 to the negative 4th power. Okay, last but not least, we're going to do this one. You draw a line at the decimal point, a line after the first non-zero digit, and then we're going to count the spaces in between, so 1, 2. So now our 1 is going to be out front. We're going to put the decimal, and then 0, 8, 1. And we're multiplying times 10. And since this was a small number, that means we have a negative exponent. And we're moving 2 digits, so negative 2. Okay, so let's look at the entire page again and see if we can notice some things. Okay, when we are dealing with positive exponents, we are moving the decimal to the left. Okay, so it starts at the end of the number, and then we're moving everything to the left. Okay, so we take the decimal and we move it from where it is to the left. Okay, so we're moving the decimal left. when we take a look at the other ones, the negative exponents, you start where the decimal point is, and then we end up having to move the decimal to the right. Okay, so if you notice on all of these, we took the decimal and we moved the decimal to the right. Okay, so move the decimal right. Okay, so if you have a large number and you are trying to put it in scientific notation, you're going to move the decimal to the left. If you have a very small number and you're trying to put it in scientific notation, you're going to move the decimal to the right. Okay, so this is positive exponents, negative exponents. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to try going through the guided practice on your own.